With a tiara. It's troubling me as I don't hear. It didn't say, okay, so it is recording. All right. I hope it's recording. It usually says recording in progress.
Well, you told them what about yourself.
All right. Keep your fingers crossed. All right. So Amy and I also had, Amy Krug and I also had a conversation about the Community Foundation's report and the ability to also do a cross-reference on contributions. And then I think the other two, we receive reports, right, from Rotary International. So, okay. All right. But it is helpful. I mean, when I, if you email it in and you want to make sure you get the pledge in, your commitment in, but you haven't actually made your gifts, or if you have made your gifts, just make a note for Joe. So, okay. Any other questions about this? All right. We'll spend a little more time on it. And I'll work it in. So we have some visuals. But just so, I have talked with Elizabeth Cummins, who provided this really great list of the types of things that some of our philanthropic generosity has supported over the years. She went back pretty far, but she had more to dig into. The list is long. It's big, okay, and this isn't even all of it. Which is not surprising. We've been around for over 100 years, right? So there's probably some things that, you know, didn't really get kept in the record books, but there's a lot to be proud of here. And the contributions that we're making now are going to continue our presence in the community, you know, our footprint, how we help lift this community up, and then also our international reach. I talk about polio a lot. We're almost there. I can't think of anything more exciting than to, you know, contemplate that there's this disease that is going to be eradicated very soon, and we all helped with that. So this is very meaningful to be able to add to this collective. And so I encourage everyone to help keep this going and to also support the future of Rotary, which is what the foundation gifts do. This isn't, the foundation gifts are, you know, supporting our actions now, but they're going to support the actions of the future Rotarians of this club. So we want to make sure that we exist for as long as possible, because it is never enough. Right, Flint?
Right.
So, okay, I'm gonna move on. Any health and welfare? I did talk to Bob Sabilski this week. He sounded fantastic. He said he is still planning on getting back here. He's just still not quite ready yet, but he sounded just like Bob and his usual cheery self. So keep him in your thoughts as he works towards that point where he can say hello and enjoy fellowship with everybody again. Okay, no other health and welfare. Consider that a good thing. Guests to be welcome. We have 3 guests today, including our guest speaker, but Casey will introduce Tom in a few minutes. We have Joel Arnold, who's a guest of Andy Holmes. Joel is with Communities First. And Karen Wilkinson, of course, with Reg. Can you hear it? And we have our 50-50. Who's doing 50? It is Mike.
I'll come up and see that here in a second.
For third place.
Third place. 749815.
That's you.
Is it?
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it back to the club. 749868. Dennis, there you go.
And third place.
First place.
Or I mean, first place.
We changed the order on you. 749900.
Excellent.
There we go. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Mike. Here's one of our last service activities. It's Anne Marie with Jerry Noodle. I'm afraid I chose a bad picture because it looks very labor intense and digging out, a storm drain that's been covered over with dirt and weeds, but there are only a few of those. Sort of a few. I did that too, because we were in two groups, but we successfully stenciled 63 drains. So Elizabeth, Jordan and her two sons were there. I was there, Andy, Jerry, Anne Marie. I'm forgetting somebody. Jerry's wife. Someone else. Sorry, I put you on. And Howard. Oh, Howard, yes, Howard. So, yep. So that, we got some drains stenciled and information out to the residents in that area. So good work. And here is the crew. This is what you missed if you were running or couldn't volunteer. So see how fun we had and think about it for next year. Thank you. All right, that was fantastic. We had such great support at that. It was volunteers from Area 7, and thanks to Mike Chafee for hosting, and as you can see, it was a perfect day, so we're so grateful to everybody and look forward to bigger and better next year. Okay, we're gonna get started with our speaker today, and Casey Lester is going to do his introduction.
Good afternoon, everybody. I was fortunate enough to be able to run by the Rotary Mile. You didn't see any of the pictures because I was there about 3 hours after all of that was going on. So I just finished the crim last week, so it's good. I get to introduce Tom today, and I'm pretty excited. So I first met Tom years ago when I was running for a position with the Flint School Board, and Tom was at the time working at the University Avenue corridor, and he hosted an event, and it was fantastic. And it was the first time I'd ever been a part of an experience like that, where somebody spoke and gave data and made it so engaging and so much fun, if data can be called that. It was a really great experience. And so fast forward later on, I was fortunate enough to be on the Neighborhood Engagement Hub board, and we were doing an executive director search, and Tom's name came up, and it was the first, I think, almost unanimous decision we as a board had ever came to about, hey, this is the direction we want to take the Neighborhood Engagement Hub. Tom is a native of Flint. Let me find out what he wants me to tell people about him before I just go off the cuff here. Tom is a native of Flint. He is currently the executive director for the Neighborhood Engagement Hub. If you don't know about the NEH, its mission is to be a catalyst for the positive neighborhood change by supporting neighborhoods to be safe, healthy, and whole. Tom worked for Kettering University. In the role, he managed 1.2 million in federal grants to support public safety, placemaking, real estate development, and economic development. Tom worked as a community development planner before he came over to NEH. He was with the city of Midland, and he was managing 5.5 million in federal disaster relief from the 2020 Midland flood. Worked in affordable housing, corridor development, and all sorts of other things that the city of Midland could talk him into taking care of for them. That being said, my portion is much less cool than what Tom's is going to be. So, Tom, I'll trade you spots.
Oh, great. All right. Well, it's good to see some familiar faces out here, some past board members and other people that I'm sure I've run into in the community. I'm excited to talk about the Neighborhood Engagement Hub today. And so let's get started. So if you're not familiar with us, we are actually hitting 10 years this coming up this next month. It was incorporated, and Jim Richardson was a big part of that. We are up on MLK just south of Pasadena. If you were ever familiar with the Salem Housing Development Corporation, we occupy that building space and footprint. And so we're up there. There's our website and our contact information. And as Casey mentioned, our mission is really, I won't reiterate that again, but we really are focused in on neighborhoods. And working mostly with neighborhood organizations, block clubs, residents, area businesses, in a variety of different ways that can help improve the quality of life and help them to be successful in their endeavors. We have 3 areas that we really focus on. So we focus on helping to build local wealth, helping to help neighborhoods to have sense of completeness, and that's intentionally broad, because complete neighborhood could be neighborhoods that have a school or a business district nearby, or parks and other things. But essentially, we think back to the way that Flint was built, and a lot of our communities in the surrounding area through the country were built where they had a lot of the different amenities. I'm in Swartz Creek, and I live in such a neighborhood where I can walk, my kids walk to school. We have trails, we have different things in that area. And so we work to support neighborhoods and their vision for what they would like to strengthen and add in their neighborhoods. And that comes to the third area, which is really working with individuals and groups. And so sometimes we will have people from neighborhoods who are not necessarily affiliated with a neighborhood block club or association, who have an idea that they'd like to take on to help their neighborhood. Other times it's groups. Sometimes there are business interests that are looking at parts of the city. And then sometimes it's groups that are looking to potentially incorporate as a nonprofit or looking at creating programming that helps the Flint community. And they are looking for some peer-to-peer mentoring or coaching around that type of activity. But at the core, we really focus on those three things because we want to see stronger neighborhoods in Flint. And so we have these areas of focus. We focus, our programs typically fall in these different areas of blight elimination, community economic development, placemaking, public policy. We were using the term public safety. We've recently pivoted to community safety, which is a little bit more encompassing, and then training and technical assistance. And those roll into our strategic plan that we're in the middle of here. And so I'm going to share a little bit of the activities that we're doing in those areas and some of the objectives that we're hoping to accomplish to help neighborhoods in the coming years. So a lot of our blight elimination is focused on our program that we have called the Community Tool Shed. So if you've not been to our building, we have a outbuilding pole barn that's about 3,000 square feet, and it houses zero-turn mowers, riding mowers, anything that basically can help with landscape and property maintenance. And this program has been going well before the Neighborhood Engagement Hub. It was, I believe, a program that was part of the Salem Housing Organization as well. And it was such a high need activity that it was continued on. So we have a number of individuals that work there. It usually opens up in the middle of April as the growing season starts and lawns and other things need attention, and then we'll run through October into November sometimes. We also help groups with activities like dumping prevention. Some of the neighborhoods, as we know, have higher levels of vacancy where properties have come down. And so there's fewer eyes kind of in that area. And so there's a chance that somebody, instead of going to the dump to discard their material, will just kind of pull up in a street. And so we work with groups to combat that. We recently engaged in a coalition that's addressing what we call non-structural blight. And this would be things like uncut properties, overgrowth, areas that don't necessarily have a structure, but they do not look attractive, or they provide opportunities for disorder or public safety issues, and the community is addressing those concerns, and then also with cleanups in general. And so over the last 3 years, our objectives have been really to expand access to the tool shed program. So we are now operating at 6 full days a week, and we're supporting satellite tool sheds. So we have a satellite tool shed on the south side here. We have a satellite tool shed that's going to be opening next year in the Mott Park Rec area, the former golf course. And we're also looking for a third location. We also support groups in their blight elimination strategies. We are a very small staff, I should say that. So I'm the director, we have 2 program staff, and then we have 3 seasonal tool shed staff that are overseeing and supporting these community programs. And then we're also exploring fee-for-service programs, because we've as a nonprofit, if you're familiar with nonprofits, it's all about the grants and trying to find ways to support the activities that we're engaged in. And so there are some instances where people have approached us and said, I know you're giving out these lawnmowers for free. And I should clarify that. So when you go to the tool shed, if you're a Flint resident or you're doing work in Flint, the equipment is provided for free. The gas is there for free. If there's a maintenance issue, you're not liable for that. But there are individuals to say, like, well, I don't really want to utilize that, or maybe I have a limitation. Can I pay you to tackle this issue? And we don't have that in place, but we're looking into that as a means of supporting some of the other programming we're doing. Just a couple things to highlight around that. So last year we had 1,864 tool shed distributions between April and the end of October. 98% of those were in what we would call the North Flint area. So anything that's Robert T / Flushing / 5th and North was distributed there. Though we are a citywide community development corporation. The majority of the checkouts were for yard maintenance. And then we had a number of community cleanups that we supported. So churches and other groups will often come to us and reserve equipment so that they can do kind of a large scale cleanup of an area. And so we saw a lot of that as well. We see a fair amount of people engaged in property maintenance, whether they are rehabilitating something and they need to clear some of the overgrowth so that they can get to the structure of the house to paint or make improvements. We see a fair amount of groups that are borrowing our equipment to prepare areas for community events such as porch fests and block parties and other events that are happening in the community. And then we also train people on how to use zero-turn mowers, because we have 4 or 5 of those available, but they are quite different to use than a traditional riding mower. And so we train people how to use that so that then they can tackle larger properties. From a community economic development perspective, we seek to support people in real estate development. So we're in the planning phase with the Flint Local Initiative Support Corporation, also known as LISC, to support their emerging developers program. We support neighborhoods and the city in their neighborhood planning. And then last year we had a youth trades program, which was really cool. And so we had support from the Community Foundation and others for this, where we had children that were probably middle school to high school age who would learn how to do things like interpret and read blueprints, how to build modular furniture. The final thing that they did, they built a shed, and that was donated to a household in the community as a way to expose kids to different career pathways. From an objective standpoint, we really want to increase access to capital. So as we know, household income is quite low in Flint, and there are a lot of barriers. For instance, if a business in the community would like to buy a land bank commercial property, that property may require a significant amount of capital to become suitable for occupation for that business. And so that's one of the goals, our long-term goal, that we're trying to work with businesses and organizations so that those business districts along areas like King Avenue and Clio Road and Saginaw Road and Dort and other places can see existing businesses and new businesses unified. We also help with connections. And so we've got a lot of businesses and organizations that are looking for they've hit a roadblock, or they're looking for resources. And so we have a lot of one-on-one or small meetings along that lines to help in that ecosystem. And that leads to the organizational support objective as well. From community safety, so this is a relatively new area that we've entered into. And really, this stems from a lot of my work at Kettering, where we had public safety grants that helped to improve safety in that area. And then once that area became more safe, then you started seeing private investment happen. And so we have a program manager that's online now with us, and they are working with Flint Police and the network of that's around community safety and violence prevention, supporting those grants, and other organizations that are all kind of involved in that level of work. Another aspect that the program manager is working on, this acronym CPTED, it stands for Crime Prevention Through Environmental Design, and this is just simply looking at the environment of a place and how you can change it to make it less hospitable to harmful behaviors, crime and disorder, and more supportive in improving quality of life. And so they are also trained in that and working to implement with resident groups CPTED strategies in their neighborhoods. We're also involved in placemaking, and so there's a couple of things that we're aiming for here. We want to help community groups, whether it's through programs or assistance with beautification and physical improvements in their neighborhoods, but also help neighborhoods define their identity. So when we were thinking about this years ago, I was doing some consulting in Milwaukee, and I was thinking, okay, I'll get an Airbnb in a neighborhood, and I found this map that was like, neighborhoods in Milwaukee, and it said, if you like this kind of vibe, this is the neighborhood you want to live in or be at. And I thought about Flint, and I thought we have a lot of really cool neighborhoods, but you can't really tell, aside from some more historic ones, you really don't know much about them. And so how do we help neighborhoods define their identities, celebrate the work they're doing? Because I think we are going to see more people moving to Flint. And how do they choose which neighborhood that they want to live in? How do they find out what's available in the neighborhood in terms of amenities and other things? And so that's a lot of our work. And then project resources. Neighborhoods have been for years participating in the Neighborhood Small Grants Program through the Community Foundation. And we continue to help them generate new ideas for projects in their neighborhoods that can help it from a placemaking standpoint. Some of the programs that we're involved in. So in recent years, we've been partners with Sloan and the Community Foundation and the University of Michigan Flint on a neighborhood oral history project that was focused on neighborhoods that no longer exist, or neighborhoods where there's a high percentage of elderly residents who have a lot of institutional or historical knowledge of the neighborhood and Flint, and capturing that. And then we also have a mobile event kit, which is very heavily used this year. Essentially, you're finding a lot of groups after the pandemic wanted to have social events, but there's a high cost. If you're having a block party or a porch fest, you need tables and chairs and a DJ and games and all kinds of stuff. So we got a grant from the Community Foundation to purchase a large deal of that, so that those neighborhood groups can generate, they can put their funds towards supporting artists to other things, and these are available for free for them to use. And so, for instance, tomorrow there's an event with Edible Flint, and they're borrowing our popcorn cart. Last weekend there was a national night out and at the Heritage Village, and they were borrowing a bunch of items. And so every weekend or throughout the summer, there's a lot of stuff going on. We have a group that's doing art in the park, and they're borrowing a bunch of things so that people can learn how to experiment with art and learn different techniques. But then we also help with neighborhood planning in general. From public policy standpoint, so we don't advocate for something or take an official position. We just, our goal is really to provide the public with information and relevant data that they can use to advocate for things that they're choosing. And so we're constantly looking at the issues and things that are happening in Flint, and exploring what's happening nationally, what type of strategies and best practices, and then connecting those and providing that information to resident groups. But we also have a number of programs that happen through that. So we have a STEM program that's in its 4th or 5th year, where youth in the summer are coming to our building, and they are learning how to do air, soil, and water testing, how to interpret those results, and then advocate for different conditions in their neighborhoods. We have a climate resilient Flint project with Kettering University and a number of other partners that is funded by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. And that's primarily a climate literacy grant, but we have dollars where neighborhood groups have applied to transform lots in terms of looking at ways to create passive cooling or capture stormwater, thinking about the future that we may face in the coming years. And then we also have another research grant with the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor around health promotion, which is studying all the different types of activities by groups like the Land Bank, us, and a number of organizations, and how that kind of all factors together. What, does that make some type of recipe that really helps neighborhoods to be more healthy and stronger, and kind of where do those things intermingle? The final area that we really focus in on is technical training and technical assistance. So we provide a lot of admin, planning, and logistical support to these groups. This year especially, we have a lot of new grantees for the Community Foundation's neighborhood grant program. And people are very intimidated by these programs. Not that the Community Foundation has not done a good job of helping them, but this is their first grant or their first foray into project management. And so we do a lot of support and helping people from things like budgeting, to helping them with purchasing, to helping them think about the sustainability of their projects and how this project may lead to another project. And then that also connects to the other objective of providing those resources, training, and workshops. So in the last couple of years, we've done a lot of work. You may be familiar with the ARPA funds, the American Rescue Act funds. We have, I think, the highest number of those grants on behalf of neighborhoods. And so we're providing a tremendous, more than we had anticipated, amount of technical assistance to those groups on their projects, how they implement them, anything from getting bids for construction-related projects to planning out placemaking improvements. We also have our main building, which we've renovated, and it can accommodate up to, I think, 75 people. We have different spaces available for meetings. And so that's also part of what we do. Fiduciary services, I think we're probably one of the larger providers of fiduciary services in the Flint community now. So we have 12 community foundation grants, 10 and counting ARPA grants. And we also provide this technical assistance for businesses. In the past, we've done a conference that has, or a workshop series rather, that we're looking at it being a conference that helps neighborhoods on things like grant writing and fund development, how to start a neighborhood group, and all these different things. And then I would say one of the things we're most proud of is last year we helped support neighborhoods in raising or applying for $886,300 in funds. And so a lot of that was through ARPA, through the Community Foundation, through the Ruth Mott Foundation, and Keep Genesee County Beautiful, and others. And so those projects are being implemented or in the planning stages now. So that's really what we're about. Again, our focus is really on supporting neighborhoods to become stronger, more healthy, and more safe. And so I think it presents us with a unique opportunity that it's kind of like we have a canvas that we can use with neighborhoods. We don't have necessarily hard restrictions on how we work with neighborhood groups. So we get a lot of inquiries. Could you help me with this? Could you help me with that? And a lot of times we're able to work with that group or connect them with other groups that have specific resources like home repair or financial literacy, things like that. So again, we're on MLK. Here's our website. And if you have any questions, that's our main line, 810-214-4829. That's all I have. So any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Every project needs a champion. I've certainly been through neighborhoods where there are neighborhoods. How do you get them to get moving?
Yeah, that's a great question. I feel like we're at a really interesting point in time where post-Great Recession, we had a lot of these neighborhood champions, and that was almost 20 years ago. And so a lot of the people that we've been working with, they are now in their, I think the average age is 72. And they have been looking to kind of step back, hand it off. And it's been a struggle because not to say that young people don't want to take these things in, but I think there are different circumstances that, the younger generations are looking at. So one of the approaches that we're experimenting with this fall actually is more of a project-based approach. So not so much that you have to put together a neighborhood association, adopt bylaws, follow Robert's Rules of Order and all that. You can, but there are a lot more groups that have approached us and say, we just like to dip our foot in and see, we have a project idea and we'd like to see who else in our neighborhood would be interested in helping on this project. And so there's an increment of time that they can work on. And so we're hopeful that that's another additional model for engagement. But we're definitely seeing a lot of that where some of the block clubs are starting to close down or there's just fewer and fewer people attending. So it's I don't know what to do about that, but we're experimenting with that model of projects and helping them identify funding and supporting them so that we like to say we work for residents. So, if you've got a project, we can step in and help kind of manage the finances and help you with some of the logistics because who knows what you've got outside. You may have a family or you may have a day job. And when you think about these things, sometimes that can, discourage you from being more involved because of the potential time commitment.
My concern is people seem to be afraid to answer the door.
Yeah.
And I stopped last week for just a week at the Crim because it bothers me to see the blight of 1,000 people coming through the city. And the man was cleaning up his yard, and I'm sure that somebody must have reported him
Mhm.
because it was terrible. And I stopped to compliment him, and he started screaming at me. And, you know, I would be afraid to go there. And we used to have, COVID really did a job with.
Yes.
We had a neighborhood group that no longer exists. And the neighbors are not the same as they used to.
Yeah, yeah, and I think the political climate and other things, people, it's hard to know who might be friend or foe or ally or just, you know, general acquaintance nowadays. It's something that we encounter as well. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Well, first off, I've seen you on my Facebook, people you may know for about 2 years now. So clearly we run in the same circle of degenerates. So I'm Nick. Nice to
Embrace
meet you. You seem like you have an extremely small staff
Yeah,
that does a million different things. How do you handle that? Because all these things you're showing us is not something just a couple people can do.
yeah, a lot of them are multi-year projects. Where it's maybe 20 or 30% of a person's week is related to, like, say, climate resilient Flint. So we try to take a longer view. In the years past, I would say we wouldn't necessarily know what we were going to be working on in that year, because we kind of were waiting to see what neighborhoods were going to ask for. And so in that way, I felt it was more like a plumber, an electrician, like you don't have a relationship with them until you need them. And so we've really kind of tried to take a more proactive role in helping neighborhoods with longer term projects like this. But we're pretty strict on, like, I don't let my staff have more than 3 projects that they're working on at any given time. And so we definitely could use some more staff. It's just a matter of finding that funding base to support that.
Alongside with that fund, 2 questions. Who's your primary biggest funder?
Yeah.
But then also, if I understood everything correctly, everything's at no cost
For the tool shed?
for everything. I'm just curious about all of it, because you're talking about fiduciary services, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah,
And I couldn't tell if you were saying that we offer at cost, future service.
so our largest funder, we have an operating grant from the Ruth Mott Foundation. So that basically helps with some of the staff time and the cost of the facility costs. For the fiduciaries, it kind of varies. If you're going for a larger grant that's not a neighborhood small grant, then there is a fee that we take on that helps offset time. If you're getting a neighborhood small grant, currently we're not taking a fee for that because we would get support from the community foundation directly or have other funds. The tool shed program historically has been supported by the city's community development block grant. And incidentally, we have to raise funds for next year. So it was a strange situation where we are getting a huge amount of the ARPA funding on behalf of organizations. So 95% of that is basically passing through us and going out the door. But the committee that decided the funding for the tool shed and other programs said, if you're getting ARPA, you don't get CDBG. And then they looked further and said, oh, you've got this for 9 years. So I think it's time for you to find other funding. So I've got about 6 months to find $75,000 to $100,000 to run this program. That program was covered. So, you know, if you were outside the city, there would be a nominal fee to borrow a lawnmower. So we're exploring things in situations where if we don't have all the funding in place, maybe we have something like almost like a gym membership where maybe it's $100 for the season to utilize the equipment, or maybe it's per item, but it's at a greatly discounted rate compared to, say, when you go to Home Depot and borrow something from their pool rental space. So it's kind of in flux right now. But a lot of the other stuff is supported through programmatic grants. The research grants have staff time built in. And so we're able to kind of use that to get that work done. Any other questions? Yes.
What have you seen as some of your most impactful partnerships? The neighborhood improvement pieces, just the general maintenance and cleanup projects, or is it more than that?
Well, I definitely think the tool shed is a huge benefit to the community. When we've mapped it, it's most of the utilization has been kind of radiating out of the Civic Park neighborhood. So without the tool shed, that area may look vastly different depending on what resources people may have or that tap into. And then the Brownell Homes neighborhood last year with support of General Motors, we were able to work with them to create a neighborhood plan for placemaking improvements. And they were able to get, I think it's around $150,000 to implement different activities and enhancements in their neighborhood. So I think that's going to be really helpful for them because a lot of the funds that neighborhoods get is somewhere between 1,000 and 5,000. And so that's been one part. And then we're seeing some emerging organizations like In the Beginning, which is in First Ward, the Southside Neighborhood Coalition, which works right in this area, who are starting to, we're doing some mentoring, we're helping them apply for larger grants. And so they won't do exactly what we're doing, but we're kind of overlapping, which is great because we need more of that. And so that's been really impactful because there's a lot of work, and as I said, we're a small staff and there's other things that we're not focused on. Thank you so much.
A lot to think about. Good work. Especially in the city that, there was a time when you didn't see a lot of what you see today, and people's abilities to take care of their neighborhoods and their own homes, and it's changed dramatically. So I didn't know anything about this, and that's rare for me to not know like even some things. So I've been very enlightened, and I hope everybody else has as well. Thank you. So Tom, in appreciation for joining us today, a donation has been made in your name to Rotary International to support the global eradication of polio. Thank you. Thank you for coming. I want to give special thanks. I guess I can move this over. I'll update it a little bit. I didn't have it all quite right till I walked in, and there was Becky. So Lynn Harand for her inspirational message. Casey Lester did our speaker introduction. Duncan Beagle was set up and takedown. Bulletin notes, Joel Fike. Mike Chafee and Becky handled registration and raffle. Of course, Amy was there to right in the middle to keep them in line. And we didn't, well, I guess I was the Zoom host. Not sure how that went. We'll see if we have a recording or not. So thank you so much for your help. John Hedberg has been handling filling fellowship spots. So please respond to her when you get an email from her. Please, please, please. But she's been doing a great job the last several times. Thanks so much, Don. And just for next week, we do not have a regular meeting, but we are meeting at Market Tap. So I think you all should be there. 5 o'clock, Market Tap, second floor of the Flint Farmers Market. You come in on the side door, not the front door of the market, and just go up the stairs and order your beer. Thursday. Did I say Friday?
No.
Oh, I didn't say Thursdays. It is next Thursday. And then our last meeting of the month, which I don't have the date, September 27th, will be Randy Curtis. Is that right? Downtown Development Authority. So hope to see you there as well. So thank you so much, and take your pledge forms, and we are adjourned.
We,